Our agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend our agenda to include
Attachment 6H.
6H.
Second motion?
Under new business. Yes.
Okay. Motion made, second, is that you?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please? Unanimous? Okay, how about a motion to approve the board minutes of June 18th?
I'll make a motion to approve the board minutes, June 18th.
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous? The next regular meeting will be held on Wednesday, July 16th, 2025 at 4 p.m.
Let's go back and approve claims, please.
I was testing you and you passed the test. Good for you, Richard. Motion to approve the payment of claims.
I'll make a motion to approve payment of claims.
Second.
Questions? Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, the next regular meeting, I already told you that. Public comment, do we have Mr. or Mrs. Public here? Okay, moving on. Number 5, old business. Do we have any old business? Apparently not. New business. Motion needed to approve the Peru Sewage Works SRF disbursement request number 42 to Hazen and Sawyer, attachment 6A.
Make a motion to approve attachment 6A as stated.
Second.
Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. That was 6A. Approve the Peru Sewage Works SRF disbursement request number 43 to Nieman Construction, attachment 6B.
Make a motion to approve disbursement number 43.
Second.
Any questions, comments regarding this? Okay, all those in favor of approval? It's unanimous. Number C, approve Peru Sewage Works SRF disbursement request number 44 to Cornerstone Grants Management.
Make a motion to,
C.
I'll make a motion to accept attachment 6C.
Second the motion.
Okay, comments? Conversation regarding that? None? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. D, 6D, approve first quarter 2025 uncollectible accounts, bad debt, attachment 6D.
Make a motion to approve first quarter uncollected debts.
Second.
Moved and second to approve first quarter uncollectible debts. Any comments that anybody would like to make? Yes, sir.
In regards to some of these that involve LLCs, what I'd recommend is common practice in all financial institutions is getting a personal guarantee from the members. That way, if the LLC does go defunct, you still have recourse with the individual members.
When we sign them up for service?
Yes. Like I said, if you get a bank loan or any financial tool, they insist that you get personal guarantees from the owners,
Okay.
which then punctures that LLC so that they're still on the hook for it, future liability. It's an easy thing to add. You see a problem with that, but still.
Increasing the 4%.
Well, we'll forget that language. Then you've got recourse on the personal guarantees.
We'll look into that. Good idea.
Sounds great to me.
I mean, I know we charge a hefty deposit on stuff like that, but I mean, I think that business had been there 5, 6 years, maybe more than it's been for a while,
But
so.
we do a lot of business with LLCs.
We do, yeah.
And it's, like I said, traditionally when they go to the bank, it's the same thing. They all sign personal guarantees.
Okay, we'll definitely look into it.
We don't have an unsecured line of credit.
In other words, there's gonna be some kind of guarantee on that, then, did I understand that right?
Yeah. But not that one, obviously, future ones.
No,
that sign
I
up
mean,
for
for
LLCs.
future. I
Look
just want to
into that,
understand it right.
adjust our customer language, contract language, to reflect that.
Okay, so everybody voted on that?
No.
I don't think we have voted.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. That was D, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. 6E, approved change order for logo and painting pipes in vault.
Make a motion to approve attachment 6C.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor? What, you have a comment, Mr.?
No, I understand it.
Do we need further explanation? Happy to explain it to you. And
Was it,
so in the original engineering, they only allocated for one logo. So it had 2 on it, and that was they just kind of missed that when they were reviewing the engineering. So we wanted to put back 2 because it was already 2. So that was the addition of the 6,000, and the reduction of the 5,000 was a vault underground that the piping goes into before it actually goes underground. And a part of that contract was for them to paint the piping in there. It's not a large amount of pipe, and I believe there's a couple valves in there. It's not deteriorated. There's a couple spots that need to be done, and because of the temperature differential between the outside, as hot as it is, and underneath the ground, they can't get the condensation off those pipes or the moisture out of there to paint them. So there's no point in spending $5,000 for them to paint that if it's just going to come back off again. And it's something that we can do when we need to, for way less than $5,000 anyway, especially when the temperature, there's not that huge temperature differential with condensation. That being said, that was part of the contract because they were there. It's not something that really necessarily needs to be done, and it won't speed up the deterioration of those pipes. I mean, we've got thousands and thousands upon thousands of feet underground that aren't painted, and where it doesn't. You know what I mean? They're already coated, so it's not an important aspect of that. It doesn't do anything with water quality either. Anything you want to add to it, Gene?
Perfect.
Okay.
So the change order is for an additional $1,000 with that $5,000 credit and the $6,000 addition for the extra level.
Okay, all those approved? Unanimous. F, approved lead service line replacement phase 1 bid, 6F.
make a motion to approve 6F?
Second motion.
So I think this is worded pretty well. We briefly touched on the large difference between the lowest bidder and the next lowest bidder, which was around $1.5 million. Westler reached out to Watson Excavating's customers, and they're all as happy as can be with Watson. They questioned them about their prices being lower than the next guy, And they said, hey, this is what we do. This is so, and so with that type of vetting, and I know they reached out to multiple customers that Watson had. There was a couple of cities. What, Muncie? Is it
Marion.
Marion?
We also had a meeting with Watson.
Yeah. And
They
Marion.
came in, we're like, and they answered all the questions right. They said, some of these contractors are still under the impression that it's $10,000 a service, and the market isn't bearing that right now. At least not where he's working. He's like, he was surprised to be that far under these others, but all the costs that we questioned, he's like, yep, I'm confident in that.
So to clarify,
He knows we're at the beginning of a lot of these and wants to get more business.
Do we include any performance bonds or any language in our contract to hold them other than, yeah, we can do the job accountable for this price?
Yeah, there's
they give to bid.
exactly
They
what I
provide us a
wanna know.
performance bond.
bid bond.
Yeah.
And then that's changed into a performance bond
Yeah.
after this.
And we hold that.
Engineering.
And then there's retainage on every payment. When you get to the end, you hold the retainage until they make things right. And the retainage is, I think, 5% of the project. Yeah, it might be changing now. There was something with,
It's to 5% now. It's anywhere from 3 to 5 with the new.
yeah. So
Step down,
5% of the
step out.
project, taken out every payment, withheld until final completion, until substantial completion. And then at that point, we decide what kind of punch list and how much money we need to withhold to make sure they do this stuff for final completion.
Well, it sounds like you did your due diligence. You asked all the same questions I would have asked. And, yeah, sometimes you just get a good deal.
And this is they just picked out an area that they thought they could do, that they thought $5 million would do. So these were a unit price bid. So it's $2.9 million for that area. So that means we can do more for that $5 million. And of course, we have engineering included in that and other things that will eat some of that $5 million up. But we're going to get more for our money, more bang for our
How
money.
many areas do we have then
6,
that we're gonna do?
1.
Yeah, we're going to do the one area, but we're going to expand as we go. But if you remember, we still have to do the inventory, and they're going to be doing the inventory as well. So again, this is a unit price bid, so it's per pit and whatever they have to do for that particular pit, and it's a crew that they have multiple. They do one thing, and they move on, and then someone comes in and does the next part of it, and then they move on. So we think it's a good bid, and we recommend the $2,940,400 for Watson Excavating.
What I was driving at was, is this one road, one street, 2 streets, the whole city,
This
or just partial?
A sixth of the city, or a fifth of the city.
In this area, they're gonna do everything they can between the river and the railroad tracks west of Broadway.
Yeah.
Not Main Street, because Main Street, main and service lines were done in 2005 and 2007. And they're gonna get as far as they can for the money we have.
So Watson moves to accept that he left 1.5 million on the table.
Oh, I'm sure he's confident he'll get our business again,
Yeah,
so I don't think he's too worried
That's
about
what
it.
he was saying. He wanted our business to want to earn that. So.
And they're not gonna come back and ask for more money, right?
No, that's their bid. That's why we
Okay.
do a sealed bid
Hold
on
to
stuff
it.
like this.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the lead serving lighting replacement phase 1 bid, raise your hands. It's unanimous. Okay, right in here, I'll slip in number H.
Still long-term control plan. It's G.
Oh, you want to do it in order?
Yeah.
Okay. 6G, long-term control plan update from our illustrious manager.
So the owner has the appraisal, and we are waiting for their response to accept or counter. We'll see how that goes. We're hoping to have, hopefully we'll have that back soon. Still waiting on the IDM amendment. We're waiting on them to comment back on the new plan for the serpentine storage, underground storage. Don't know when that's going to happen. I can imagine that this is just a narrative. This is by me, not hearing directly from them, but I can imagine they're probably tired of us saying, "Oh, well, by the way, and by the way, you know what? We changed that. Thanks for reviewing that for the last 2 weeks, but we changed it to this." So they're probably hesitant to jump all over it, and that would be on our engineers, and we're putting a lot of pressure on our engineers now because we need to get moving with both the appraisal and the property and the engineering on this. So
Is that my fault?
we did get a.
Trying to turn that on.
I don't have all the clarification on this, but I want to make sure you guys know we got the rough order of magnitude estimation for the from Bowen, but it didn't include everything, so I hesitate to give it to you. I'm going to. This includes the serpentine, the new underground storage instead of the above ground storage was at $83,350,000. That's still higher than what we need it to be. That puts us, and that's without the south side separation and any storage on the south side. So, again, they're only at 60%. They can't be sure because they're only 60% in, and they've changed 3 times. So, to us, this is something saying we probably need to look at the design again and try to reduce some of the design, reduce some of the costs. But nothing definitive here. It's way better than 126 million for the storage part of the project, but it's still not where we need to be. We're probably 9 million still, 8 million over where we need to be. That doesn't take into account they already have about 5.5 million in contingencies built into that. So we're still got to work through it. Still got to figure it out. But it wasn't a great meeting this morning, was it, Jamie?
No, but there are some, it's a long way to go. I don't see how we get there.
Still couldn't turn it off.
And, when their comment is, well, I guess you'll have to adjust rates, and we absolutely flip the table over, I think they realize that that's not an option for us. At least that is the very, 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 very last option, so. We'll get there. We'll figure it out. This is a huge project and a lot of money, more money than any project's ever been done at the utilities. So these frustrations come, and we'll get through it. That's all I have on internal control.
Thank you. H, this is our add-on. Number 6H, truck 265 replacement. Michael, would you like to?
I'll make a motion to approve 6H.
Michael, would you like to speak?
So we've got a Ram 2500 that the overhead crew uses to haul the equipment around, and we pretty much run it into the ground at this point. As we've kind of grown a little bit and we've got more equipment, the equipment's heavier, it gets used more frequently, and I think it's just really too much for the 3/4 ton truck. So we are looking to upgrade to a 1 ton, and a diesel engine gives us more towing capacity, more hauling capacity. And then, like I mentioned in there too, in the event of a significant disaster in the city, we have the means to refill that truck where we could not refill a gasoline engine.
As he's mentioned, it loses oil, it burns oil, it doesn't lose oil. We've had transmission issues with it for almost a year now. And typically we go 10 years and 110,000 miles, but it's not doing us any good. And This solves two problems. We were looking for some type of truck to haul, like a dump bed or a dump trailer, along with the large trailer they're pulling out with the skid loader and the mini excavator and all the attachments to that. We recommend the Ed Martin Buick, $62,676.25. We have $110,000 in the budget, as Mike eloquently stated here.
Thank you. So, would you like to vote now? All those in favor of this purchase? It's unanimous. City administration update. I don't see the mayor, but I do see his right-hand man.
Yeah, the mayor gave me a few things to share. One would be that he's working with a company, CGI Digital, to do a promotional video, and it can be on the website. And he's also working with an organization called Viewpoint that has some association with Dennis Quaid, as far as putting a video shooting is scheduled for 7/18. Another marketing, or selling point for the community. Did a walkthrough with a developer that made a presentation on the First Farmer Bank building, which, if you'll recall, that walkthrough is coming up soon, but that they are making a presentation on turning apartments upstairs and a restaurant downstairs. So we'll see where that goes. Acrobat Alley activation is July 12th. That's an alley activation and an alley between, next to Nails, across from the courthouse, across Broadway from the courthouse. Sprinkler construction underway at the Muni. They had the liquor license approved for the Muni just the last couple of days. Multiple developer presentations are coming up for the West End property down by the baseball fields. He's looking through those. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
This is what we just got.
Where do you want to put it in? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, we're done.
Very interesting. And now we have the city attorney's update.
We just got notice, I believe, on Monday that on the DuPont aspect of the 3M DuPont litigation, not counting the special fund, is being resolved. I believe it's $189,000 to what will be the utilities as related to just the DuPont aspect of that claim. So we'll get the first settlement once we get the account information sent over. $29,000. You look confused.
Natural. What's that about? I don't remember.
The PFAS in the Grissom well that's no longer used.
What do you say?
PFAS.
Okay.
It's in the news.
Oh, it's in the news. Okay. So, the possibility of us receiving how much money?
$189,000 from that one.
Oh, nice.
And he said we'll get the first payment after we get the account information, everything to him. We have that paperwork. Shell has that, so. And that'll be, what'd you say was 29,000 change? Yep.
Okay.
That will go into the Grissom water utility.
Okay. Is this better?
It's a lot better.
Okay.
So you look excited now.
Thank you for that explanation. Manager's report.
Thank you. I just handed out email we got from Region 5 EPA about the NOV. We have briefly discussed from March 2nd of 2023 when they came and did their inspection. I think you'll read in there that their initial complaint was that we didn't respond, and then they admitted they would respond more than once, twice that year within the time frame, and gave them the correct responses on the things they were most concerned about. And then the minor issues, areas of concern that didn't require response, that they on April 30th told us that we had to have a response for. We had a meeting about that and what they needed paperwork wise and information wise, and Jamin and his people provided that pretty much on the spot within minutes. Even though they had provided part of that at the time. Iden was actually on the call too, so Iden was like, oh yeah, we don't require that. And they're like, well, we'd like to see you okay what we're asking them to do. So Iden was really quick in responding and okaying that how we were doing the lead service and lead and copper sampling out there at Grissom, the secondary sites versus the primary sites. So nothing was water quality, but they have acknowledged all of that and said, we don't need anything further. We've got all the information we required. So that doesn't mean that this won't be on record, but this will be on record saying that you did respond and we got all the information that was required, and it had nothing to do with water quality and everything to do with they had to find something. I think, as you stated, audit wise, you always have to find something. There's items the same way. So that's good news. That's taking care of one thing off our plate.
I appreciate that effort to quick responding. Sometimes it's a gold.
I couldn't do it fast enough if I never talked to the EPA for the rest of my life.
We were in the meeting and him and Corey were sitting there. Hold on, you're going to get this in just a second.
What do you think they'll be? Have your finger there. You're ready to run up that.
So yeah, no, it was a good meeting, and I'll reserve my opinion on why it took 2 years. We asked and they didn't really have an answer. Bureaucracy is basically what they said.
Yeah.
So, moving on with the approved policy that you guys did last meeting, policy 1/2025 on the gateway reporting. Michelle has taken that policy and all of her reporting for the year, submitted it to the SBOA, and said, hey, are we doing this correctly? Please respond in writing. And so they responded in writing, basically said, we've reviewed the documentation submitted in relation to your CAP, and based on our limited review, the plan has been implemented and issues corrected. So on the gateway, they've acknowledged that the data she's putting into their system is correct, and your policy that you guys approved last week was kind of the cap of that. Anything else on that?
Just still working on the second.
Yeah, we've got CBiz coming in.
Their date is August 25th.
So for the inventory, their comment on our inventory, not having that up to date, and so we're on top of that. They've already been contacted. You guys okayed the contract, approved the contract for that. So those are the two things that we needed to get to the SBOA on that. So we're moving forward. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but MISO and APPA had their yearly executive meeting. American Public Power Association. MISO is the Mid-Continental Independent System Operator. So that's our. We've kind of talked about it before. That's our where we get all of our energy from. So I kind of got a hold of their. It's not hard to do, but I got a hold of their presentation, and I just wanted to go over. We always talk about the future of electricity and reliability, and I thought I cherry picked a little bit of it. I didn't want to go through the whole thing with you, so I kind of cherry picked some of it. If you remember MISO, this is the MISO market here in the red, and a little bit in the blue. This is kind of their second slide. but they talk about the new normal for reserve margins. And they control the entire, for us, the entire MISO market. I mean, the MISO controls that entire market. They control all of the wholesale power purchases, and they have a lot of control over the costs of the JTS, the Joint Transmission System. And if we don't talk a lot, I don't talk enough about how the JTS costs impact energy rates for everyone, and how the aggressive maintenance and construction plans, how important they are now with everything that's coming up. So I thought I'd just touch base on this. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but so if you look, this is kind of their kickoff with this whole presentation is, hey, look, the MISO market, which we're in, they're the highest risk for not having effective reserve margins, efficient reserve margins, excuse me. So basically there's a percentage, and I can tell you exactly what that is, of reserve over what they think the load's going to be for the day, the week, the month, the year. And they say, this is what it is, we need this reserve, and they put that whole thing out for auction in an advance time for the next year, for 20. They've already done the auction for 26. And then people with generation capacity put it into the market, into that auction, and say, we have this much capacity, and we have the ability to have this many kilowatt hours. So because capacity and energy are two different things. Capacity is potential, and energy is what they sell. Okay, hours is what they sell. And people go out and say, well, I don't own generation. Like IMPA owns a lot of generation. I think they buy 10, 12% on the open market. Everything else is covered by their own generation and purchase power agreements, PPAs. I'll look that up. I'll give you that information. I'm not positive on that. I don't want to say something that's untrue on that. But they have a high percentage of the generation that they own, or they have rock solid PPAs, future PPAs. So anyway, so they put that into the system, and they say, well, I need to buy this on the open market, and that's what they do. That's how the MISO market works. So they know how much reserve they have on a hot day, and what they believe their base load. They're really good at it, what their base load is going to be. So, of course, MISO market, Indiana, is in the high risk for efficient reserve margins. The whole MISO market is. And so they're projecting load, this is for the future, okay? So they're projecting the load growth that leads to this is, if you look at 2025, this is terawatt hours. So it's 1,000 gigawatt hours, which is 1,000 megawatt hours, to increase from that 650-ish range up to 1,000 in 2044. So it's a significant increase over the next 19 years. And the CAGR is compound annual growth rate. So they're projecting 2.6 on average, max at 1,200 terawatts. Bottom projection is 921 terawatts. That's a lot of energy. That's a huge increase. And it doesn't come out very well, but all of this is historically, there's no growth, 0.3% shrink. So there's no growth. So they're projecting that this growth, and a lot of this contributes to data centers and electrification of buildings. And this isn't the MISO market. So this isn't West Coast stuff. This isn't East Coast where they're trying to ban gas and all that other stuff into residential buildings. This is building electrification. So if we don't have generation in the system, we don't start approving generation, there's going to be a huge issue in the future. And data centers is a huge driver of this. So who knows where that's going to be? That's kind of a guess. So if you look at renewable versus dispatchable, so the dotted line is 2024. The green is renewable, so that's your inverter stuff. That's solar, wind, that type of thing. And then your base load is the solid green line for 2024, and your your base load is the blue line and solid is 25, and dotted line is 24. So if you see the difference, the separation between the dotted lines, between renewable and dispatchable planned generation. And so this year they've gone, oh crap, we've got way too many renewables planned for the system and not enough baseload, not enough dispatchable, what we would call dispatchable, because we can say turn it on and it gets turned on within a certain time frame and it sits there and it can produce constantly if you have the fuel for it. So if you see, I mean, so now all of a sudden in 1 year's time, the planning has completely changed 180, and all of the investment for the renewables is a sunk cost if they're already halfway out there and they decide to change direction. And 2 years from now, is that going to change again? So now we have all this investment that's just sunk again, and who pays for that? The people sitting in this room, the people sitting in their houses and enjoying air conditioning right now. Hopefully they have air conditioning. So the market has completely changed. The planning has completely changed. This is just really just another of what it looks like. This is 15, 20 years ago. Right now we're at about 200 gigawatts of plant capacity, generating capacity. But they're saying by 2040 we need over double that. And if you look at that's coal, this is coal. Now we're down here in this 2-3% in coal in 2040. Probably the last coal plant in the United States will probably be the Prairie State that IMPA actually has ownership in, and that'll be in that. I think that's 2042. I think when that is supposed to be decommissioned. So this is alarming. How do we prepare for this? This is just kind of a knock on wind, and I enjoy doing that sometimes. But if you look at, if we're talking about dispatchable versus renewable, so like wind, if you look at this graph here, this was January, February of this year. The 2020 is the megawatts load. That's not the year. That's how volatile wind is when we talk about renewable versus dispatchable. Dispatchable is a straight line, or at least a graduated line. That's how volatile these generators are, and that's the problem. We have too much of it now. We have too much wind and too much solar in ratio to dispatchable resources. I believe they inverter resources, I think, is the new cool term about dispatch or about renewables. So if you look, I mean, the volatility of following load is almost impossible with these resources. So I think that they're mostly just identifying where some of these issues are and what they need to fix, which is good. So we talk about the queue for generation construction. It's huge, but it's backlogged. It's backlogged for years and years and years, and it's a lot of regulation, and it's the fact that with the solar, a lot of the solar and wind tax incentives, everybody jumped into that, tried to jump into a queue with projects that weren't funded necessarily, weren't completely engineered, didn't necessarily have a location other than we're going to do it in this area. So they hop into this queue because it wasn't expensive to do so. Now they've changed that. Now the queue is extremely expensive to get into, and they're starting to prioritize projects versus baseload versus renewable, depending on the area. So they're being a little bit more specific with this. But there's 294 gigawatts in the queue right now. There's over 1,500 projects just sitting there that have been in there. Some of them have been in there for years and haven't come to fruition. And so that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And as we start retiring gigawatts of electricity, terawatts worth of energy, but they've identified this issue, and that's kind of where it's going. But if you look at a lot of it's solar, got some gas, wind is big, and then we've got some hybrid stuff, gas versus gas with hydrogen, co-firing with hydrogen. So this is how they end up doing their auction now. So RBDC is reliability-based demand curve. So what they do is they take the reliability of a inverter resource, and they take what load needs they need to get out of that, and it's an inverse curve. And so your reliability, as it drops off very quickly off a cliff after a certain part of the day or a certain output, and then they match it with the need, the cost goes exponentially higher. So if I have a 50 megawatt solar plant, they're only going to give me 10 megawatts worth of credit for that.
Because nobody
Close-
wants to power
close-
their data center off of wind.
Well, because it's not reliable,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not a baseline. I need a gigawatt for all the data centers in Indiana. Well, I've only got 500 megawatts worth of base load, and I've got 3 gigawatts worth of this. So it's not. So what they've done, they've given credit to that. So if you look at that with no RBDC in the 24-25 auction, it was $30 in the summer per megawatt day. Well, the 25-26 auction is $666 per megawatt day. And what's our system? Our system's 50. We peaked at. Well, we peaked this year. I didn't look what we were
I
last
would
month.
say the peak this year, I think we were around 58 last year.
Yeah, we were like just right below 58 last year for a megawatt day. And then now they've broken it up into summer, winter, fall as well. But if you look at the difference when they take the renewables into account the way they feel they should take into account as far as reliability goes, it's exponentially higher. So renewables, without tax incentives, still don't give us the good ratio of reliable and cost effective. But these are the things they're considering. And the things that are going to drive our energy prices. I think the largest point we need to take from this is what's going to drive our energy prices in the future. This is the same thing. Historical average, we're 8 gigawatts short what they think for 28-29 in the MISO market. So they're going to have to find that 8 gigawatts through transmission, but it's got to be 8 reliable gigawatts. So if it's a bunch of renewables, it's a bunch of inverter based, then how many times that do they really need for all of their coverage? And this last slide is kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning. What is the investment in the JTS and how is that? If you look at, say 2021 was the largest year ever, and they had it at $13 billion worth of investment in 2021. It dropped back down to 2022, up in 2023. What they're saying for 24, and the future, they've aligned up $30 billion worth of JTS projects. And now that's local, that is joint projects. A lot of these are joint projects, so each system has to contribute, no matter who's doing the maintenance or who's doing the upgrades and construction. But we're talking $21 billion just in this next few years that they want to, if you set out of the 2024 numbers, the next few years on top of the normal JTS costs that all the ratepayers are going to have to pay for. So it's not just energy costs, it's not generation costs, it's also we've got terawatts of electricity, of energy that have to be delivered, and we can't do that. And data centers are driving this. And Indiana is one of the largest states when they're trying to, what was the one, where was that one at? The one they're talking about up in, dang it.
New Carlisle?
New Carlisle. Huge. Gigawatt of power?
2.2.
It's bigger now? I haven't looked at it in a while.
Peak at around 2.2.
2.2 gigawatts for one data center. Where's that going to come from? Well, we don't even have the infrastructure to feed some of that. So when we talk about electric prices and the fact that energy is the only thing it's ever going to do is go up, it seems, these are the things that impact just the MISO market. That doesn't include other market. PJM has other factors, other pressures on them. The NYISOs up in New York, California, ERCOT in Texas. I mean, they're having the same issues. So I didn't really necessarily have a point, but I just wanted you guys to understand that there's so much that impacts the price of a kilowatt, and it's expensive, and we have no control as a Peru. We have no control over what the government's making people do, regulations, red tape, and the market itself is saying what we have to do. And supply and demand, if there's not enough supply and there's plenty of demand, and we have gigawatts of
Aren't they building
One
new
generation.
center- No, new centers on this down around Indianapolis or somewhere around there.
New Carlisle's
On
the
these
one
data centers?
New Carlisle's the one we were talking about. There was a one looking at Anderson. We don't know where that ended up going to. But there's 2 or 3 in Indiana that are wanting to come in. There's huge Amazon centers. I believe that was up north, wasn't it?
There's one, it's in New Carlisle as well.
Yeah, and there's Google wanting to come in.
Into the state of Indiana.
Yeah. So that's good for Indiana, but it's one customer eating up a ton of resources, and people falling over their feet to get to have this customer because they think that a data center is going to make a gajillion dollars for the electric utility. While it would make a lot of money for the electric utility and would help the electric customers, it eats a ton of resources. Water, wastewater, it has to be cooled, and they're massive water users, and they will destroy a water system because they have to use so much water for cooling. And then you're limiting any type of growth in your community because you can't supply them water or wastewater or any more power. So it's not all good. That's not the only thing driving this, but it's trying to give you a forecast. We hope we don't, you know what I mean? We don't have any control over some of this. And when we talk about going in front of the council with the tracker, these are things that all add into that tracker.
It doesn't sound too good for Peru in Miami County.
It is. It's the industry in general. So it's
It's everybody in Indiana.
we enjoy better rates than everyone around, except for
Because we're still
Logansport.
small and we can do that.
And because we're an IAPA member, I firmly believe that. But it's going to go. It's going to be scaled. If ours goes up, everyone else is going to go up because they're all taking from the MISO market. That's what our market is. They're all buying energy from that. So, on top of their own generation, of course. But if someone can sell their generation into the MISO market for more money than they're making selling it to their own people, what do you think they're going to do?
Well, yeah. What everybody else does, go for the almighty buck.
What was the percentage increase on data centers from, in that time frame that was up?
Oh, it was
Because that's not gonna-
Triple.
Yeah, I mean.
it was significant. And when we've had inquiries, especially out of Grissom, hey, what can you handle out there? What can you handle? And the initial inquiries were,
Oh, shoot, it's 10 times.
Yeah, it's.
it's significant.
I mean,
This is
if
where we're
that
at now.
sustains, that's
Yeah.
disastrous.
And it started out probably at 20 megawatt, and then they went to, well, and this is multiple people inquiring, well, can you give us 50? And then they went from 50, can you give us 100? Well, how about 200? I mean, it's just, they're wanting to put these huge data centers all in one spot. And very few places have that capacity without large projects, years-long projects.
What's the attraction of the New Carlisle has that, is attracting these?
I don't know, because they're not that big. They probably have the electric infrastructure out there, and it's readily available. They're probably closer sources to generation. The closer those type of resources are to generation, the
80, 90.
the less volatility, because they're right there Even some of these have, and they're trying to buy old coal plants or old gas plants or old. I think there's even a nuclear plant somewhere that Google's trying to buy next to and try to restart one of the nuclear plants and to only feed their data center. Yeah. So. But again, you know, these could all fall flat. These are all, I mean, we're talking 20 years from now, this could all fall flat. AI could, while it keeps going, they could come up with, I don't know, better semiconductor. I don't know. I mean, who knows? This is a complete guess. But right now, it's a huge burden. It's going to be costly because we're paying for that. We're paying for all of that infrastructure to get that electricity through the rate, through the JTS. Everybody pays their portion. Don't get me wrong, but that's all I have on that. Any other questions?
Amazon's putting $11 billion into that new Carlisle
Yeah,
facility.
yeah, that's going to be huge.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Who did you say?
Amazon.
The monster.
And so I'll be out of the office from July 6th to July 15th. And we are closed for the 4th of July. That's all I have.
From July 4th to, the 16th?
6th to the 15th.
Oh, 6th to the
Be back for the
15th.
next meeting. I cut my vacation short so I can make the meeting.
Oh, I feel so sorry. Well, so, somebody like to make a motion for an adjournment?
Motion adjourned.